You know, when you're leading a project, your most limited resource isn't your budget or your team, it's your own time and attention. I've seen so many projects go off the rails, not because of some technical glitch, but because the project manager was trying to give everyone the same level of focus. It just doesn't work. So the real question is, how do you figure out who really needs your attention right now?
Okay, so let's really get into this. I want you to keep this question front and center as we go through this explainer. Because honestly, answering this with a clear system, well, that's the difference between actually leading a project and just getting dragged around by whoever's yelling the loudest. This is the heart of strategic project leadership.
So we're shifting gears here from the theoretical to the practical. We've talked before about classifying stakeholders, putting them in their boxes. But, classifying is just grouping. Prioritization, that's an act of choosing. It's about turning all that analysis into what you're actually going to do.
So let's think about prioritization a little differently. It's not just a to-do list. I want you to think of it as a strategic filter. This filter is your project's shield. It protects you from what I call the noise of the marketplace, all those conflicting demands and requests. And it lets you focus your energy where it's actually going to make a difference.
Think of prioritization as the engine that actually drives your whole engagement plan. It's this dynamic thing that connects your stakeholder register, the who, with your project schedule, the what. And this isn't a one-and-done activity. It's something you have to do constantly, reevaluating as you go, because it's totally tied into how you manage both your risks and your resources.
All right, let's get down to it. How do we build a disciplined, data-driven map for these decisions? We have to get away from just going with our gut about who seems important and move into a real structured framework, something you can actually stand by and defend.
And here is the absolute core of that logic. The guiding principle is all about cumulative impact. See, we don't prioritize a stakeholder just because they have a fancy title or seem powerful. We prioritize them based on the very specific way their needs and their actions could affect our project's critical path. That's it.
So to measure that impact, we're going to use 3 lenses. I want you to think of this as your return on engagement calculator. We're going to look at a stakeholder's criticality, their urgency, and their strategic alignment. You put these 3 together, and suddenly you have a really clear, logical picture of where you should be spending your time.
First up, criticality. This is basically a gatekeeper function. If your project literally cannot move to the next step without a stakeholder's approval, or their input, or their signature, then they are critical. It doesn't even matter if they like your project. Their involvement is a non-negotiable prerequisite for survival.
Next, we have urgency. This is all about the time dimension. A stakeholder's request might not be the most important thing for the project overall, but if dealing with it is on the critical path for this week, then its urgency is off the charts. If you ignore it, you're going to feel that pain directly in your schedule and your budget. And finally, there's strategic alignment. This one's a bit more subtle. It's about figuring out who your strategic allies are. These are the people whose personal or departmental goals line up with the organization's big picture objectives. Prioritizing them gives you that crucial political air cover you'll definitely need when things get turbulent.
Okay, so that's the framework, the 3 lenses. Now let's put it to the test, right? We're going to apply this logic to our running case study, the high-rise office tower construction project. This is where the theory hits the ground and gets real.
I want you to imagine you're the project manager. It's a Tuesday morning and your phone is blowing up. The client's CFO needs a detailed cost report like yesterday. A local community group is threatening to show up with signs and protest the construction noise. And a key subcontractor is on hold saying they can't move forward without an urgent technical clarification. You can only deal with one first. Who do you call?
This is where our framework makes the decision almost automatic. Let's break it down. Look at the subcontractor. Their demand is high on criticality and immediate on urgency. That's a work stopper, right on the critical path. The community group, also high urgency because a protest could lead to a stop work order. Now the CFO's report. Yeah, it's high alignment, but for today, low criticality and low urgency.
And just like that, the path forward becomes crystal clear. First, you get on the phone and give that technical clarification to the subcontractor. You have to keep the work moving. Second, you start mitigating the protest risk with the community group. And third, you communicate with the CFO and reset expectations for when they'll get that report. You're not ignoring anyone. You're just managing the reality of the project, step by step.
But, prioritization isn't just about managing the people making the most noise. The truly great project managers, they look deeper.
They look beyond the official org chart to find the hidden currents of influence and the potential roadblocks no one's talking about yet.
This right here, this is what I call the blind spot of the org chart. It's such a common failure point. We get so focused on people with big titles that we completely miss the people who have the real informal influence. And let me tell you, that is a massive risk.
So we need to be on the lookout for two specific types of hidden stakeholders. First, the shadow stakeholders. These are the folks who don't have a formal vote, but they definitely have the ear of someone who does. Then you've got the latent resistors. These are people who might seem quiet right now, but your project's success actually threatens their interests. The goal here is simple. Engage them proactively. You want to negotiate early, not litigate late.
Okay, for all of you studying for the PMP exam, listen up. This is super important. The exam absolutely loves to test your prioritization mindset with some really tricky situational questions. So let's walk through the most common traps and how you can sidestep them.
First up is the hierarchy trap. It's so easy to fall into this one. The common mistake is just assuming that a senior executive is automatically your top priority. But the PNP logic is unshakable. Priority is always, always dictated by the impact on the project's objectives. A junior engineer identifying a critical safety risk that trumps a CEO waiting for a status update every single time.
Trap number 2 is what I call the manage closely overreach. Yes, of course you manage your high-power, high-interest stakeholders closely, but what about the ones who are high-power but low interest? Bombarding them with updates is just a waste of your time, and honestly, it can really annoy them. The exam is testing to see if you can apply the right, nuanced strategy for each type of stakeholder.
And the third big trap, the new stakeholder scenario. A new person pops up in the middle of your project. What's your first move? The trap is to immediately jump in and start engaging them. No! The correct PMP answer is always to assess and analyze their impact first. Remember this, analysis always comes before action.
Okay, let's pull all of this together. We've built a framework, we've looked at the common pitfalls, so how does this actually translate into how you spend your time as a leader, in the real world, to get the maximum value from every hour?
You use this logic to literally build your engagement calendar. Your definitive stakeholders, the ones who score high across all 3 lenses, they get the high-touch, one-on-one time. Calls, coffees, you name it. The groups that are high interest but maybe low power, they get broader communications like project portals or town halls. And please remember this, if 2 of your high-priority stakeholders are in conflict, your number 1 job becomes mediating that conflict. Nothing good gets built on a foundation of discord.
So let's end with these 6 core principles. I really want you to internalize these. Prioritization is dynamic, not static. It's about impact, not rank. Urgency is a primary filter for your day. You have to proactively manage resistance, and you have to see unmanaged stakeholders as the risks they are. And finally, be transparent and fair. This is how you stop being just busy and start being truly effective.
We've really mastered the logic of who to focus on and why. But that's only half the battle, isn't it? Now that you have a system for prioritizing, the next critical step is mastering the process of how to identify all these people in the first place. And we are going to break that down in our very next explainer. I'll see you then.